So here I got this Nissan Juke, and it got dropped off because, well, from what I understood, it has a misfire, right? So they wanted me to diagnose the misfire. But last night I got in the car to move it, and this car has absolutely no power initially. So when you push the gas pedal, the car doesn't want to move, and you could completely floor the gas pedal, push it all the way to the floor. And after about 4 or 5 seconds, you could feel the car start to get a little bit quicker, to go up to like 2-3 miles per hour, and then it starts to, just ramp up. It gets more and more power. It just, something's not right here. So I have to text the owner and ask her, well, what am I looking at? Am I looking at this misfire, or am I trying to figure out why this car? And there it goes, it's misfiring already. You can probably see the RPM just jumping around, car shaking. So, okay, look. Had the pedal all the way to the floor and the car barely wanted to move. You know what? This has almost the same exact symptoms as that Nissan Versa that I diagnosed that had a bad transmission, because it was pretty much doing the same exact thing. And sure enough, it was a transmission. Nissan put a new transmission in that car because it was still under warranty. There's a bunch of hesitation from when you hit the accelerator pedal. So the first thing I want to listen for is, we're going to do a test of just cranking the engine and listen to what the engine sounds like. So make sure it is making compression on all cylinders. So this one's a push to start, so it's a little bit tricky. I think it'll work though. I think if we push the button twice, the cluster turns on. So what I'm going to do now is push the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. And of course the car won't even attempt to start if the brake isn't pushed. So you got to push the brake pedal as well. And then just tap the start button. And yes, it works. You could probably hear that. It sounds perfectly fine as far as compression wise. Before we go underneath the hood, let's check the check engine light. So you can see right off the bat we have a cylinder 2 misfire, right? So that gives us some direction. Injector circuit open, cylinder 2. So based off of this, the car is seeing a open circuit for the fuel injector, so we probably won't be chasing a spark plug or ignition coil. This car has a aftermarket performance cold air intake, so yeah, I'm really not going to worry about that mass airflow sensor code right now. I'm not going to worry about that boost performance system right now either. We have to focus on the misfire. Now this car, it doesn't have, I know it says 9 in the corner, but when you pull up the codes for the transmission and everything else, it's at 30, okay? And I know some of them are just duplicates, so it's not really 30 codes, but it's more than what's being displayed right here. So I hope that makes sense. Right now I'm just looking at the ECM. Here's that cold air performance intake I was talking about. Another thing I noticed is, look at the brake reservoir for the master cylinder. It's actually broken off. And they just have, like, I don't know what this is, like fabric or something stuffed inside of here. Look at that, just like yeah, it's pretty bad. It looks like tape. That's what it looks like. It looks like painter's tape, like they use painter's tape to kind of plug this up. Yeah. Yep. That thing needs a whole new master cylinder, or at least you could probably get away with just changing the reservoir, but whatever, it's not my call. But yeah, that's kind of shitty. So a quick look here, and I don't really see any fuel injectors. Now this one is turbo. I took off the engine cover already. It says DIG turbo. So I don't know where these fuel injectors are located. You know what, DIG, this thing might be direct injected. That sucks. Alright, so this car has the fuse for the injectors located right here in this fuse box. So I got my current clamp on it. And trying to minimize the glare here, but you can see we have packs of 3. So indeed we are missing one fuel injector. I opened up the second channel on the scope, and we're going to check each of the ignition coils just so we could get a sync and we could confirm, because basically more or less an injector should be firing around the time that the ignition coil is firing, right? Of course they don't line up, but it's close enough to get an idea on which one's missing. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go through each coil, and you're gonna see, because I've already done this test, you're gonna see that on each coil the firing event happened in line with one of the injector events, except for one of them. So let's go look at that. Alright, so I'm going to start off with ignition coil number 1. And you can see the coil event is lining up more or less with one of the fuel injectors. So I'm going to take it off and repeat it once again. You can see how it's lining up. Okay, so let's go over to coil number 2. And again, we have one of them lining up with a fuel injector, which looks to be the one on the left. The first one, if you recall, it lined up with the injector in the middle. So let's go over to ignition coil number 3. And that one, it's a weak signal because it's hard to get to the ignition coil, but you can see it's lining up with one of the fuel injectors. Okay, so let's go over to ignition coil number 4. And there goes the coil firing, number 4. But you can see we don't have a fuel injector event lined up with that one. Take it off and redo it again. And there we go. Okay, so I hope all of that made sense to you guys. We could clearly see, ooh, there is a bumblebee inside of here. We could clearly see that there is a fuel injector that is missing off of that waveform. So yeah, I don't, oh, there's 2 bees inside of here. What is going on? Let me lower these windows so they could get out. Alright, so I don't know why the scanner is saying injector number 2, but to me that looks like if I got the cylinder layout correct, I would think, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that's cylinder number 4. That's the one we don't have our fuel injector on. But it doesn't really matter. We have an issue with the fuel injector. So like, say if that whole intake manifold has to come off, well, at that point you just test all of them. Either way, the work has to be done to get to the fuel injectors. I think I'm done looking at this car. I'm gonna give her a quote as far as digging into it and replacing the injector. Oh crap, there's another bee right here. Get out of here. Ah. The owner wants me to do a tune-up, so I mean there's not much to do besides change spark plugs and the air filter. And it sucks when they're using aftermarket crap like this, because you know, all I could do is take pictures of it, tell her, hey, get one that looks like this, and measure and say, hey, it's an inner diameter of 3 inches, and it's just stupid when you gotta deal with that, you know. So anyway, I got the car jacked up here. First thing I notice is, look at these tires. These things they might as well be racing slicks. And then there's a ton of wobble in this wheel, back and forth. And I already checked it. Its lower ball joint is destroyed, so it's gonna need a complete lower control arm. And look at these brakes. So brakes. Let me go check this control arm on this side. No, this side feels okay. I don't really feel anything. But again, brakes. I was wrong about the wheel on the driver's side. Upon closer inspection, it is going to need a lower control arm on this side as well. The ball joint isn't bad, but the bushings are just destroyed. It's not enough to cause any play, but I could see they're bad enough to the point where if this thing goes in for a wheel alignment, they may turn it down and say it needs a control arm before they could do a wheel alignment. So control arm and a outer tie rod on this side. There's a tiny little bit of play, but because it needs an outer tie rod on this side, it's going to get one on that side. That's just how I do things. Here I am tearing into this to get to the spark plugs, and overall it looks complicated and a pain in the butt to get to, but once you start digging into it, really it's not that bad. It's actually pretty simple to get to the ignition coils. You can see I got all of them out right here, and the number 3 ignition coil, which I'm assuming is number 3, has a little bit of oil on it, so it's starting to develop a leak. I got the 4 spark plugs out, and I got them in order, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you look at 1, 3, and 4, you can see the spark plugs look Very similar, right? But look at number 2. See how it looks very dark and full of carbon and soot on it. And remember, this is the one that we had the code for, injector problem on cylinder number 2. So the spark plug is confirming that. You can see there's a clear difference. So that's really interesting. And it turns out we have a little bit of an oil leak on cylinder 1. Nothing major, but there is something there. So yeah, now I'm just waiting on the new plugs, and we'll go from there.